I'm going to prove to you that it's possible to create a garden from scratch in a space just 1.5 metres by 1.5 metres. Wish me luck. So this is my space on a fairly plain bit of patio. 1.5 metres is about there to there and there to there. So I can create in this corner a much more exciting place to be. I'm using 3 wooden planters of different sizes and slightly different heights. I've painted them a sort of soft sage green to complement my planting scheme. I've lined each one to protect them, and I'm arranging them in a corner pattern. And I'm filling each one with multi-purpose, peat-free tub and basket compost. This compost is great because it's designed for tubs and containers, which means it's got that little bit more food in to sustain them right the way through the year. When you're filling them up with compost like this, don't fill them too full to start with. Remember, the root balls that go in from the plants you're going to put in will take up space. That's why I've left sort of a couple of inches gap at the top. So what I need to do now is to work out what I'm going to plant where to give myself this kind of wraparound miniature garden. I have a little phrase I use for planting design. It's called the agony and the ecstasy. Hopefully the emphasis on the latter. I like to place them before I plant and place the other containers too, because I can get an idea of how it's going to look, and then it's so much easier to adjust it. As well as creating a pleasing colour scheme, I'm also looking at structure. I find, for me, if I arrange things in pleasing slopes, ups and downs, but quite gradual, that's what I like. And I'm starting with my biggest plants here at the back and coming down slightly lower as we go to the sides to make something that'll cradle my chair. So, starting with the largest container and the largest plants, this is about 500 millimetres by 900 millimetres, this plant, just under a square metre. And if I take out the ones there, I can start with the largest. Always a good idea, start with the biggest plant and work down in order of size and scale, because then your main structure is in place. And this Euonymus here in this corner is just a green, very good substitute for box. So making sure it's straight. They don't always come straight in their pots, so feel free to straighten them up at planting time. Just bear in mind that all plantings in containers like this are temporary. By that I don't mean a couple of weeks, I mean a year or so. Then they might start outgrowing each other and out-competing one another. Then you can just adjust it. Never be frightened of moving plants. They quite enjoy a holiday every now and again. This next one is Gaura, with these lovely butterfly flowers. In fact, this one's called Whirling butterflies. It's starting to take the eye downwards. You can say, oh, it's a little bit taller than this, but it's thinner, so it doesn't look as robust. And the contrast of this sturdy cone of evergreen foliage from the Euonymus with the feathery light butterfly flowers of Gaura, I quite like the play there and the fact that these blow about in the breeze and this stays static. One group of plants that's really useful in the summer garden are the shrubby salvias. They come in lots of different colours, blues and reds and pinks and whites. This is cool violet, and I love the contrast of the colour with the white of the Gaura. So they're wonderfully aromatic too if you crush the leaves. Really powerful sage scent, and that's what the salvias are. They're sages. Next comes this, a lovely contrasting flower shape. This is the flat head of Achillea. This is a variety called Sassy Summer Lemon. You see why I don't know all these names? They change them every year, but it is lovely. Not too tall. With all these plants, I've watered them all thoroughly before I'm planting. Get them really soggy before you plant, and then you can water them again afterwards. If you plant them dry, there's a chance that the root ball might stay dry, and that would never do. Because my chair's going really close to this, I want plants that have fragrance as well. So we've got the sage, and then at the front, a bit of lavender. This is a lovely variegated Euphorbia called Ascot Rainbow, and the yellow variegation on the leaf will pick up the yellow of the Achillea. And finally, in the corner, a catmint, another plant with an aroma. Now, if you plant catmint, you probably plant Walker's Low, and then you'll think to yourself, it's not actually that low, is it? It's still quite tall. This is Junior Walker, which is even lower, so that's a perfect plant for a trough. So there's my first one done. Seems to me to be a very good start. For the second container, I'm picking up on the colour of the Salvia with this lower growing form of Verbena bonariensis, which is called Lollipop. The lovely thing about this plant, apart from its intrinsic beauty, is that bees and butterflies love it, and they'll pop in while you're sitting here with your morning coffee or your cup of tea or your evening glass, and they'll really enjoy the nectar that this plant produces in abundance. And in the middle, a rounded form, a sphere of that Euonymus there, which is called green spire. The great thing about these Euonymuses is that they're evergreen. So come the winter, when a lot of the others die down, you can replace the other plants and leave these as the sort of skeleton structure in your garden and plant it up with spring flowering bulbs, winter flowering pansies. So there's a versatility in this kind of container gardening. And sticking with the fragrance, a glorious Dianthus here, little pink. I'm tucking two of these down the side of this Euonymus, along with a couple of ivies creeping down the side. And finally on the front here, a lovely hardy geranium, sprawling purple flowers on this one, pale purple, which will complement the others. And I'm just going to stick that right down the front here so it'll spill over the edge and soften the hard lines of this container. I'm quite pleased with the way this is coming together now. This kind of complementary colours coming all the way through, but contrasting textures and flower shapes. It's very interesting noticing things, and when something is as small as this and as intense as this, it makes you look closely, and it makes you really appreciate and enjoy the structure, the fragrance, and the colour of plants. One plant to go. The tall part of my triangle in this final trough is an allium, an ornamental onion. This one's called Millennium. In front of it, a Coreopsis with flowers of pale yellow and mahogany. Bit of ivy trailing down the front. And at the front, two sages, the purple-leaved sage, Salvia officinalis purpurea, which really does pick up the colour of those sage green containers. Our first garden when we got married was 15 feet by 40. I thought that was tiny, but this just goes to show in 1.5 meters that you can make a garden in any space available if you choose the right plants and arrange them well. So now you can see how it all works together. The combinations of colours, the contrasts of textures and forms, and I think quite a sweet little garden in 1.5 meters. You know, however long you've been gardening, and I've been gardening quite a long time, every time you set out on a little project like this, however small, there's always the, can I make this work? Will this be the one that really doesn't look quite right? And then when you get to the end of it, you think, do you know, I'm really rather chuffed with that because it works and it's pleasing. And when I sit down among it with my cup of coffee, it makes me feel good. And that's what gardens should do. You're doing good for wildlife and for nature, but you're also doing good for yourself. And that counts for a lot for me. Cheers. So these are the plants I've used in a small space. What would you use? Let me know, just comment below. Gardening is my passion and I want to share it with you. So subscribe now and let's get gardening together.